Tuesday, October 7th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Second last gardening show of the season, everybody. Only two left, so we want to hear your grow questions and also get your updates on what the season was like. And let's talk about the road ahead, shall we? All right, so you know the drill. Gardening Day, second last one of the grow season for the year. 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206. The Signal at cbc.ca for your emails. Megan McCarthy is here, assistant horticulturist with the Memorial University Botanical Garden. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. What a day. It's hot out.
Yeah. What is the temp in?
It was like 20, I think, when I was driving over.
Another 20-degree day.
Yeah. It's very confusing. I don't know what to wear.
No, right now.
I don't know what to wear.
And so Newfoundland and Labrador right now, according to my thing, for the temperature for St. John's, it's so right now we're sitting at 18 at the airport. Wow. But the other, if you go with that's Environment Canada. Mm-hmm. If you go with the other weather one that just comes up from Google Weather, it says it's 21. So I guess it depends where you're reading it. So it's hovering around 18 to 21 in St. John's.
Goodness.
Which is interesting because what day did I say it is? October 7th?
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Okay. How is this time of season at the Botanical Garden? I
mean, we still have so much flowering. I was walking past some Japanese anemones on the way up, and they were just full of bees. There's lots of asters full of bees. It's just so cool that there's still things that it still looks beautiful. And you have all the fall colors now, and I find you get to even seed heads and that sort of thing. We have a clematis, and it looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss, a little shaggy spider or something. And I don't know, it's just such a nice time to be in the garden because it's a bit quieter, and you can sit on a bench and you're not sweating. Well, I mean, maybe you're sweating today, but maybe just sweating a little bit. And it's just, I don't know. It's my favorite time of year to be working in the garden too. Yeah, so it's lovely.
Our little we took a potted hydrangea and put it into the backyard this summer because it was just not looking all that happy inside. So we're going to put you in the backyard, and so we dug a hole, put some nice dirt down in it, soil down in it, and it ended up it had already flowered inside a little bit, but then late season it flowered, and it's still got flowers on it right now that have just kind of come out. I'm like, look at you, doing well.
Good job, little buddy. And they're great dried flowers as well. Lots of people bring them in, and I typically put them in a vase with some smash the wooden ends and put them in the vase with some water. And once the water dries, they sort of dry up, and they're gorgeous. We actually started selling dried flowers at our gift shop this year, and it's just
cool.
Oh, I love it. Big fan.
We we've got a couple notes already.
Perfect.
So let me see. This one was sent in early. Where is it? Is it too late in the fall to plant some trees? I kept meaning to plant apple trees. If not apple, what else can I plant now this late, if anything, from a listener? Oh,
yeah. Oh, definitely still plant things. I would probably try to get them in as soon as you can. Yeah. And I would consider a stake, and typically I would stake a tree for the first year of its life anyway, but especially going into the winter, if that plant hasn't had time to put out its roots, if you stake it, so you want to use something around the bark that's not going to rubber cut the bark, like an old rubber hose, or I used a plastic bag recently because I was being a dirtbag, but so I probably wouldn't recommend that. But something soft, if you're concerned about, or if it's in a really windy location and that sort of thing, because what you don't want to do is dig a deeper hole and put the tree deeper, because that's number one tree death cause, I guess.
Yeah. The right size hole, and what should for this time? What do you need to think about for putting in with it this time of year? If I have this little apple tree sap, or like
Yeah.
an apple tree that I've bought somewhere that I'm going to put into my front yard.
Yeah.
So I dig the hole the appropriate depth and
Yes.
width. And what do you need to think about?
So what I wouldn't do is fertilize it because you don't. Now you could give it something like a root boost where it has a really high middle number, that phosphorus, because that will help it with root development, which is fine this time of year. But we don't want anything where it's going to be pumping out like green growth, because that's not going to have time to harden off before the winter. So yeah, I would just dig a hole only as wide as, or only as deep as the pot, and I would even like pull away some of the dirt and try to find what's called a root flare. So when you're a little kid and you're drawing a tree, that flare on the bottom, I'd find that and make sure that that's at soil level and wider. So, like if you can do twice as wide, that's like the ideal. And then if you have like compost or like manure or some sort of nice organic matter, I'd put it in with that. But yeah, otherwise, take out the big rocks. Yeah. And with like anything that has like burlap or wire or something, you want to take that off too. And any tags, because that can dig into the bark and also kill the tree. So
right. Yeah. And if you do so you some manures in with it, the hole's appropriate size, the root ball, you've got all that out. It gets planted, and you stake it. It's all protected.
Yeah.
Come spring, when do you give that a dose of fertilizer?
Yeah, you could start like pretty early spring. I wouldn't go so early that it's the end of April, early May, and you're putting it on, because we could still like have some frost. And when something and you want to do it according to the recommendations on the bottle as well, because a lot of people will just like dump a lot of fertilizer early on, and then you kind of get weak spindly growth, and then you get pest issues and that sort of thing. So I would say like, mid to late May, you can start putting now. And it also depends on your fertilizer. If you're like mulching with leaf mold or compost or something, you can do that early, because it's like eating a salad versus a multivitamin, like a salad, like it's a slower uptake, and it's going to break down a bit slower. So things that will break down slower, you can put on earlier.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we got a note from Nancy in Flat Rock here. I think this is all one note. I'll just start reading it, and then we'll see if it's one or two notes. I'm looking to get any advice for a weed I'm having challenges to get rid of. Colt's foot.
Yes.
I don't hear many complaints about this weed, Colt's foot, and I believe it may have to do with the fact it seems to thrive in areas with very poor soil and gravel areas. I'm trying to beautify my lawn/garden area, and some gravel spots surrounding my property overgrown with this weed. Any help would be very much appreciated.
Yeah. You don't really hear a lot about it, but it is quite aggressive. And I do find it's often one of the very earliest things in the spring to bloom. So I would even start then, when it's coming up in like April, or very early May. You can start digging it out when it's actually in flower, because most of the time either people don't realize the flowers, because the flowers come out first and they die away, and then the leaves come out. So a lot of people will think it's two different plants. But I just start digging it out like from the very early, and just be as persistent as you can. And also where it has those big leaves, you can also, if you don't have the time even to like dig it out, you can just cut the leaves off, and that'll help to starve it.
Right.
Yeah, because it is quite. It likes to live. How about that?
It's so funny with weeds and liking to live the way they do, because there's other things that you're like, but I want this one to live, and it just doesn't like me.
Yes, exactly. It's funny how that works, hey?
Like folks trying to grow basil.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah, just cut it off and put it in water and start again.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. There goes another one.
Plants are very, they can be forgiving in that way. It's nice. It's like, oh, this isn't going well. I'm just going to do some light cloning and start again.
Well, like we grew squash this summer, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
Watching, and then I'm like, how many squash are we going to get? And then it's like, so then we got one, and I was like, and it is an okay size. We've eaten it. It was good. It was delicious, actually. But But now, like when I look now, there's a big long vine with little tiny, and the frost has already mushed them.
Yeah.
But like had like just nature cooperated slightly differently, there could have been multiple squash.
Yeah, totally.
In the repertoire over the summer, but didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and if you wanted to play Mother Nature, you could. And because I do find you get way more fruit if you
with the makeup brush or
if
whatever.
Or even like when you see a male flower, I just like take off the petals and I just snap it right off. And very sweet story. My great grandfather in Bishop's Falls, he was like award-winning gardener, and he used to carry male flowers in his pocket and pollinate people's squashes and pumpkins. And I just love that.
That's amazing.
It's very sweet. So I didn't stand a chance, really, at all.
What's he doing in the backyard? Oh, no, he's just,
yeah, that's him.
Nature, take care of business.
Yeah. Also, very first car ever to be in Bishop's Falls, my family. So, lots of legendary stuff. So.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. Well, I mean, he had to drive, once he got up and running, he had to drive around to keep the pollinating
exactly.
going,
right? A man with a purpose. We love a man with a purpose.
A big, busy bee there. All right, folks, this is Megan McCarthy is with us from the Memorial University Botanical Garden today, the second last gardening day of what's been quite the season. If you want to join the discussion, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. That can be updates. You can talk about the season that was.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, you can also talk about putting your garden to bed, or if you have questions for grow success, hopefully for next year as well. Drought is on my mind. I know you folks at the garden spent the whole summer watering.
Yes.
Talk to me about where, with the summer that was had, where are things with soil now, and what kind of implications can this have for the future? Because we talked about hydrophobic soil already a few times on the show.
Yeah,
but, let's go into
and I think what we don't realize is how long it actually takes that soil to rehydrate. Like, I still feel like the soil is quite dry, like profoundly dry. Even if you like stick your finger in and maybe like the top, like inches is wet. We haven't really had like enough really good rain to really rehydrate everything.
I was going to say re-wet.
Yes. Yeah, re-wet or whatever. Yeah, and because also some of it is just running off the top now when we get things. We did get enough where plants that were sort of like, oh, it's too hot, I'm going to go to sleep, are now like ready to party again because they woke up and they're like blooming either for the first time because they put it off during the summer, or because we're like 3 weeks ahead. They're like, well, I bloomed, but like, it's okay now. So I guess I'll do it again. We were on campus for a tree walk and there was rhododendrons that were blooming again. And like, I saw like red osier dogwoods, which normally have their berries this time of year, and they were full of flowers. So poor things are a little confused.
Yeah.
And then you also have things that are going to sleep early because they just like dried up and then, haven't really, like they don't have it in them to like put in another round of growth.
I mean, that's me on a Friday, right? Like, I'm dried up. And, I don't have another round of growth. I need a Saturday.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've started cutting things down, but I've also noticed that some things are like putting up new growth because the weather has been good and we have had a little bit of rain. So it's just sort of a confusing time of year because you have a day like today where you're like, oh, it's hot, but then we're going to get frost, super soon. So yeah, it's a good time to actually be in the garden day by day and see what is happening and kind of monitor it for yourself because it's just also interesting to see how things are. Yeah.
Half my back lawn came back and is green.
Yeah.
The other half was like, no, bye.
Yeah. I'm going to hit snooze.
I'm like, oh, you're done for the year. Are you back lawn? And it's like, half of me is done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends what, is it grass? Is it something like clover? Is it hawkweed? Like, it's going to be interesting to see, because typically they do come back. Like even in places like when I lived in Victoria, they, with many, many, many months of drought, like it would come back. But it's going to be interesting to see when, because like with Victoria, you don't have the same like cold, but for here, we, especially in the fall, will have like, really warm and then really cold. So, I'm curious to see what happens, and also what happens when year after year that's compounded because of climate change. So
I'm working on a conversation around, it'll be out later this month, I think, but I want to have a conversation around what we've seen with the weather this summer, and then go a little deep. Go deeper on it for the climate side of it, and I'm curious about what the expectations are with climate change, and because there's the unknown. So like, and we've talked about this on the show before. Any bit of climate reading that you do, it's like, well, with climate change, when it's hot, it's too hot and dry, and there's just no water. But then when it's wet, it can get to be too wet, and then when the soil's hydrophobic and stuff, like the immense issues that you get around that.
Exactly.
So then when you look at the drought conditions that we had this summer, I'm just curious, and there's a climatologist who, if he's listening to the show right now, Munn, who knows who he is, he'll be getting an email from me shortly, because I want to have a conversation around how we need to wrap our heads around the unknowns.
Totally.
And then what is known around, because we know the world's getting hotter.
Yes.
But then what do we think we can expect for the island and for Labrador coming in around, like, we know, like I said, we know it's getting hotter, but is it like, do we think, like, is it more the drought conditions? What do we know about it? What can we kind of plan around it? Or is it like, do we hear more about those atmospheric rivers again, which from the last couple of years ago? Is it a mix? Like, what is known and where are we going with it as the world continues to heat up?
Totally, yeah. And what does it mean, like, as gardeners, for adaptation and mitigation, but also for climate action? Like, I think gardeners should be like in the streets, talking about climate change. Like, I would like to believe that it can be a really powerful connection between people and an issue that they only really like hear, think about in a grand scale. Like this summer it has smacked us in the face, and like, I know at the garden we're going to have to change the way that we've like always done things. You know what I mean? And I think for a lot of us, it's the beginning of, okay, number one, we need to be taking more action on this, and also action both like politically and like big change needs to happen in terms of the way that we live our lives, but also even on the tiniest level of like, how am I going to water my garden, like, or what am I going to plant? We were talking about, okay, well, we might plant like a peach tree in the potager garden, and we probably wouldn't have been doing that like 5 years ago, even when I started. And so there's and planning, and even just like education as well. Like there's a lot of things, like I would love to do research on like our soil like biome and the soil food web. Like it's not as adapted to drought as like many others, right? Like that this is a little bit more normal. So what does that mean? And what research is that in terms of like the things that we can do to help like our ecosystems adapt to climate change, and what is responsible, because sometimes when we're in this vulnerable sort of place, that also can be when like invasive species are brought in more, or things that weren't invasive are now becoming invasive. Like we're kind of at this funny time that like as the garden, like I'm definitely like trying to keep my eye on, because we also want to give responsible advice and like be, a part of like moving things in the right direction. So yeah, lots of reading in the winter.
Well, and I remember that at the start of this season's gardening season here on the show, Michael Murray was in talking about like, gosh, we're going to have to start looking at, because we're talking about the beginning of what we're looking at for rain and the lack of it, right? So this is before we're like, drought conditions. So he was kind of looking ahead, being like, if this continues, we're going to have trouble, and we did. Like, he was bang on that. And he talked about like, well, and you got to start thinking about, do you just let the lawn go? What do you do? Because it's not going to do anything. Once it got so hot and so
Yeah.
dry, it just lawns were like, bye-bye, we're going to go
Yeah.
dormant and whatever else. So then I just think in the longer term around how we plan for gardening.
Yes.
And when we think of the water we have, water consumption, if the reality is like more droughts ahead of us, what's the conversation on that?
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And for us, like in the gardening world, we talk about the S's of around gardening. So that's slowing water, sinking it, saving it, and spreading it. And like all of those can mean many different things in terms of even like garden design. So for example, like if you have like wood chip paths, you know, instead of like stone paths, you are like slowing down the water as it's like running over like a hardscape path, for example, and you're sinking more of it and you're saving it because that water is then like in your path and in sort of like the lower, the upper water table of your garden, and you're potentially saving it. And then you also have a renewable source of organic matter that you're putting into your gardening. So there might be some things that become more popular but even just I would encourage people to think about those 4 S's. So sink, slow, spread, and save in terms of managing water. Because I think it is, like you said, it's not just about drought, it's about the rain as well and harnessing that. And we kind of have to start thinking about that now, because now is when we're, you know, from now until the spring is when we can start harvesting the water. And there's just a really cool tip. If you go to the City of St. John's website, the GIS, you can use their GIS tool to do a calculation on your roof size. So I say roof because I want to say rough because that's anyway, but and then they also have information about annual rainfall, and you can calculate how much rainwater you can collect from your roof from that really easily. And then from that you can plan like your system. So there's a lot of like really free and tangible ways to even just like water awareness, like, okay, how much water like have I been using? Reflect on how much you are watering, and what spaces were like priority. If you're on a well, obviously that's like something different. But yeah, just kind of wrapping our head around it, because maybe it won't happen this year, but maybe, you know, you start planning for, you know, within the next 5 years, you want how many cisterns, you know, or I want my drip irrigation in all my beds by, you know, like 2030.
Well, and this is why I appreciate this show and having yourself in and all the other gardening expert guests that we have in, because, we're in a world where Google exists, fine, right? You know, you Google stuff, and it can be so helpful, but this conversation we are having today, the conversation we've had through this season, through other seasons, it's real time adjusting and looking at what is happening, and now, can you imagine 15 years ago on the garden show being like, okay, fall's coming. Are we getting ready for the water collection for spring because it might be drought conditions?
Yeah.
Those conversations weren't being had then.
Totally. Yeah.
And we're having them now.
Yeah. Yeah. And we clearly have to start.
Yeah.
And they are a conversation, and there are people in our community that are doing
100%.
this, you know, and I would love for those connections to be strengthened, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, there are awesome systems that exist, and I have to like brush up on all my irrigation training of like 10 years ago, you know, because in theory I used to install systems like that. I just haven't had to really think about it in a while. So there's a lot out there. But that is also ways to re-engage new people in the community as well.
And I think it's empowering for folks in a time when we have eco-anxiety, when you can easily be sitting down, like many of us, with some anxiety about next year.
Yeah.
But when you have conversations and you think about, okay, so how do we adapt, and how do we strengthen this? Totally. What can we do?
Yeah.
Well, there's answers, like you said. There's answers out there, and it's just about us getting them.
Totally.
Let me see. We got a couple. I'm ignoring the emails, and we got a call just coming in. Well, here, let me do one text first from Don from Salmon Cove. Hi, Adam. Wonderful program as usual. Thanks, Don. Problem. I had a complete apple crop failure. See, whenever it's a gardening email and it starts with "I had," bad things are coming. So I had a complete apple crop failure, all rotten in the center. Maybe fungus caused. What to do for next year? Well, Don, I'm so sorry about your apple crop failure.
Yeah, that
Any
really
thoughts on that,
sucks.
Meg?
I'm so sorry. So during COVID, we learned a lot about like sanitation practices. So you have a pathogen, and how do you keep it from spreading, and how do you disrupt the cycle? And so for a lot of this, that's always the first place I start when you have an issue. So actually the very first place I would start is selecting, because there are varieties, especially of apples. So for example, with apple scab, or with like black knot when it comes to like cherries and plums, there are resistant varieties of these things, and there are very susceptible varieties. So at the very beginning, and I know this doesn't help you, but I just figured while I mentioned it, or why I thought of it, choosing your plant will help with this in general. But if you are having a pest issue, or by pest issue, I mean like if you are having an issue that is either fungal, bacteria, whatever, what you want to do is like disrupt the life cycle of that. So if you have like fungi, for example, a lot of them are like what we call ascomycetes. So they kind of wait until the best time for that fungus to release their spores. So you want to clean up all the leaves, all the fruit, and really have a really clean area so that life cycle does not continue. So, or at least you're stopping one part of that life cycle. If it's like a pathogen or a disease like inside the plant, or if it's like, for example, like a pest that lays its eggs or something like that, that's a bit harder to deal with. But sanitation is always the first place that I start. And we do have to remember that with like climate change, we're going to get like more and different diseases and pests. And like plants that are stressed are going to behave, it's not only about water. Like if a plant is stressed, then it's going to send out its little pheromones and not behave the way that we expect it to. So I would sort of work on giving that plant a really good life for next year. So maybe like some nice mulch with some compost in the spring, and like a prune for airflow, those sorts of tasks to hopefully nip that in the bud. Yeah.
Get all the fruit, get all the leaves away from it. Make sure it's completely absent of all the stuff that's grown from this season.
Yes.
And then come next season with that clean space. Get some mulch, get some fertilizer. Start getting some TLC for that, and also prune it for air because if it's fungal, it could be kind of like caught up. Okay.
Airflow is really important when it comes to fungal stuff because you want the spores to blow away rather than getting caught. Yeah. And that also means that, clean your snips. Like don't prune your infected apple tree and then prune your not infected apple tree, or anything in the Rosaceae family, for example. Like don't prune your rose and your apple with the same dirty snip sort of thing. It's very all that plant health stuff is like, if you don't want to get a cold stuff.
And where it's where Don said crop, I'm kind of wondering if it's a few trees, and then it's just so again that's that pruning bit, right? Just to make sure that air can get through all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mary's on the line from CBS. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, of course.
I have a question. I have some patches of wild raspberries growing on my property. Now, last year I cut them back. I knew about husbanding, but I would like to know the correct way and the time to do it.
Sure. So for the way that raspberries work is the first year they put up their cane, and that cane is just a leafy cane. It's just growing and doing its thing. And then the following year, that cane will fruit. So any cane, Mary, that fruited this year, you can cut that right to the ground. Even now, like while you can see what fruited and what didn't. Yeah. So you can go on through and do that. And when you're doing that, try not to, because I'm like a bull in a chop, try not to step on the new little canes for next year, because that's going to be your crop for next year. And then while you're doing that, you can kind of like clean out, if it's really packed full of other like weeds and that sort of thing, you can kind of pull out the biggest ones of those. And you can do that. Like now is a good time to do that, if possible. And then if you really wanted to go crazy, you could try to give it a better life, in the spring with a bit of fertilizer or something like that.
Okay.
But otherwise, it doesn't need much.
The breakdown of the fertilizer?
I always find it hard to talk about fertilizer because I think it's sort of a personal preference thing. Like for me, I would much rather use like a fish or a kelp based, like organic sort of based thing. Like fish fertilizer for me has served me very well in terms of like the happiest plants that I've grown have been with fish fertilizer. So those two are always ones that I recommend. But if you have one, in your shed that you enjoy and know how to use, like for fruit production, the higher middle number
Calcium?
is
Calcium?
No, just the phosphorus is good for
Okay.
yeah. So when you have your NPK, your 3 numbers on your fertilizer, if you have a higher middle number, typically that's a bit better for food. For things that are fruiting, but otherwise you can't really go wrong. They're pretty, they're not very fussy. So I think you give them anything, and they're going to take over your life.
Okay, well, I look forward to the fruit that I get. So
yes, for sure.
That's good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your help.
You're so welcome.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Mary called from CBS. Mr. Dick Whitaker's on the line from Portugal Cove. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Yep. I've got to get out and do some more fixing on the barn, but other than that...
Oh, my gosh. It never ends, does it, Dick?
That kind of thing I don't want to tell you.
Oh, goodness.
I want to put in a plea for people not to throw away their tree leaves. You know, I mean, you see people, and or for that matter, their grass cuttings, because...
Yeah.
You know, you were talking earlier about the water situation. Mm-hmm. Well, all those help to hold water, in the soil and so on. And actually, I worked when the lawns were put down in the Confederation building. I worked for Mike Manning, and he, to make the soil up for there, he blended in, I would say, almost 50% peat.
Right.
And it held the water really well. You know, that grass stayed, it still does, stays green all through the worst kinds of situations. So it really works. And, any of the tree leaves, they have fertilizer in them, of course,
Totally.
and all this kind of stuff. They're, a really, really great asset to gardens and gardeners and so on. So that's basically what I wanted to say, because too many people sort of sweep them out of the bag. Oh, this is a nuisance and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
If you can't use them yourself, give them to someone else.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a really good reminder, Dick, because our gardens are mini ecosystems. So if we have things like leaves that are within our ecosystem, and then we're constantly pushing them out, then the nutrient recycling in our space is going to kind of be off. So now is a great time, like if you don't have a compost already set up, even just to put your leaves in a corner of your garden and say, okay, I'm going to let you do your thing. And yeah, it is really helpful. And at the garden, we use leaf mold to mulch all of our, and it's the most beautiful color. And you don't really have to do much, you just let it sit, and you can shred it after a while if you have that capability, or if you have a lawnmower. Lots of shredding with the lawnmower. But that is a really good reminder, because also it's just economical. Like, who wants to be buying things that we can keep for free in this day and age? And like you said, with the drought, like mulch is our best friends when it comes to drought. That blanket above the soil that is going to help protect it and keep it from baking. That's going to be more and more important. So thank you, Dick, for for bringing that up.
Okay, that was the main point. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Mr. Dick Whitaker there, calling from Portugal Cove. Yeah, I know folks who will, when things start to get bagged this time of year, they drive around and acquire them for their own purposes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because some people don't have big trees on their garden, or in their gardens, and they don't have that source. So, yeah, we can help each other.
That's right. Share the wealth.
Yes, your leaf wealth. Right. Rich in that.
Here we got a couple more notes coming in here now. Just curious, has Megan ever collected seeds from rose hips in order to grow roses? Is it okay to store these seeds in a pill bottle and place them in the deep freezer until early spring for planting?
Oh,
that was from Daryl.
I haven't done that in a while just because we are spoiled and we are nerds and we order our roses very specifically. But from what I remember, they do need a cold period. And you want to get that fruit off the seed, like that hip.